Hi. How's it going? Good. So wonderful to be here with all of you today on Saturday. I'm sure many of us would be asleep right now if we weren't required to be here. I know I would. But it's wonderful to be here. It's amazing that I've been learning all about Denver Online High School and the incredible model that you guys have. And I wish you were around when I was a college student because it sounds incredible to only go to school one day a week. But you're probably all wondering why I'm here, who am I, that long introduction notwithstanding, you know, there were a lot of words in there that I'm not sure I understood either. But so why am I here? And the answer is because of my mom. In fact, all of us are really here because of our moms. Here's my mom, there she is with my little sister, and she told me the story that I actually don't remember about me when I was 3 years old. And here's the story. Apparently one day I woke up and I realized this horrifying reality. My mom has been doing my laundry all these years. And for whatever reason, I thought, this can't stand. Something has to change because I want to be a big boy. And big boys do their own laundry. I don't know where I got that from, but that was what I decided I was going to figure out how to do. So I gathered up all my clothes and, you know, took them in a little basket down the steps and went to our laundry room. And I encountered a major challenge, which is that we had a top-loading washing machine that was about this high. Being 3 years old, I was about this high, so I couldn't really get my clothes in there. So I wasn't sure what to do, but I was so determined that I didn't give up. I found another solution, a kid-friendly alternative, which also turns out to be a top-loading washing machine. So open it up, put my clothes in, throw in some soap, start the automatic cycle, and did that for a while until I got very fatigued. You just have no indication. This gives you no feedback about when your laundry is done. So I went and found my mom and asked her, how do you know when your laundry is done? And she asked me what I was talking about. Of course, was deeply horrified when she found out what I had done. But what I love about this story is it's first of all hilarious, but second of all, I have no memory of doing this. Zero recollection. Which suggests to me that, you know, even before I was deeply conscious or really capable of forming strong memories, in me was this innate desire to do more than I knew that I could do. And that leads me to believe that this is a human characteristic, that all of us are born into the world driven to do more than we have proven ourselves capable of. And this was something that showed up in my life again and again as I grew up. A little bit about me, more broadly than my laundry activities. My family's from India, and I was born in Cleveland. We like to joke that I'm a Cleveland Indian. And moved to Denver when I was about 1.5. We grew up here, and we would go back to India, you know, every year or 2 years to visit family and relatives out there. And on one particular trip to India, when I was about 10 years old, my dad and I were walking through this market when a little boy came up to my dad and asked him for money. This isn't him. This is a Google image search for a little Indian boy, but hopefully it illustrates the point. And so he came up to my dad and he asked for money, and my dad gave him something and he ran off. But I was so struck by this. I thought, why is this kid who looks like he's my age begging? And I'm not. How could our lives be so vastly different? And I asked my dad this question, and he basically said, the best answer I can give you, son, is luck. You were born into a situation that you did not choose, but where your parents had the means to take care of you, to put a roof over your head, to make sure there were abundant toilet and laundry facilities, to make sure that you could go to school, to make sure you were healthy, etc. And for whatever reason, this kid was not born into that same situation, so he's fending for himself. That's unfair, I told him, and he said, yes, absolutely it's unfair, and that's why your privilege, which you should recognize as not being earned, is something that you should use to help other people as much as you can. So I kept thinking about this. We kept walking through this market, and I was looking around and noticing a lot of people begging for money. And nobody seemed very interested in helping them. So I asked my dad, look, there are a lot of people here. Many of them seem like they're in a position to be able to do something. Why is no one helping? And my dad said, you know, it's another really good question. I don't know. It could be a lot of different reasons. Maybe people don't think this is effective. But I think in the big picture, people just don't know what to do. Every time we see somebody in need, it breaks our heart, it hurts. And when we think about, giving $1 to someone, fine. Is that dollar gonna change their life? No. They're gonna be hungry in 4 hours again. They're gonna need support in another couple of hours, etc. And when you think about not only that person, when you think about the 300 million people living on $1 a day or less in India, that's the entire US population living in poverty in India, for example. That problem is so staggeringly big that people think they can't do anything about it. They're powerless. That powerlessness forces us to turn away, to desensitize from this issue, because otherwise, it's just too much to bear for any one of us. And so I was saying, okay, so hang on. There are a lot of people who need help. The people who can help them don't think that they can help, so they don't. And this is the situation that we're in. He's like, that's pretty much the size of it. My dad is a doctor, and so thinking about this and hearing all these stories growing up about him helping people who were sick, we helped heal, I asked him, how did you learn to become a doctor? And he said, I went to medical school. And so I asked him, is there a medical school for poverty? Is there a place we can go to learn what to do about issues like these? Because if we are held back by our lack of knowledge about what to do, can't we just learn? Can't we just go to school and learn? And so that was this question that stuck with me for most of my life. How could I learn what I could do about a problem like poverty? I went to high school and I went to college. In college I studied international affairs, with which I hoped I could learn what I could do about problems like poverty. I would ask my professors in college, what can we do about poverty? Teach me, how can I make an impact on this massive issue? And the answers that I got from professors were characterized generally by this cartoon. I don't know if you can see it very well with the light. There's two professors at the board. One of them starts with some kind of premise, arrives at some extraordinary conclusion, and in the middle, it says, then a miracle occurs. And his colleague says to him, I think you could be more explicit here in step 2. In essence, we understand the way the world is today, the premise. We understand the way that we want the world to look in the future, should we have our way. No poverty, people have education, people have healthcare, etc. What we don't know is what's in between those two worlds. A miracle occurs. And when we do see moments in history where we advance forward, where we address poverty, where we create jobs, where we help people get access to healthcare, we don't exactly know what took place. Sometimes we attribute it to really rare and remarkable people, Mother Teresa, or Gandhi, or Martin Luther King, who seemingly operate at the fringes of human capability, who are miracle workers. And it just seems a little bit to me like we can't just wait for the miracle workers to show up, for these heroic people to arrive, because we're going to be waiting for a long time, hoping and praying that things will get better. And so how do we not just wait, but how do we ourselves demystify step 2? How do we clarify that miracle that actually happens and learn it so that we can do it again and again? And I did not get an answer to exactly how we can do that until I went to play racquetball with a friend of mine in our recreation center at college, and I saw a flyer with this guy's face on it. This is a guy who's a psychiatrist here in Denver. His name is Paul Polak, and he has brought over 20 million people out of poverty. And I went to go listen to his talk at my university to hear his story. And his story was that he went and spoke to 3,000 people who live in abject poverty here in Denver and other parts of the US and abroad to learn what's going on for them. And what he discovered was almost every single one of them have extraordinary capabilities and talents, but they are seen as victims who need to be saved. They're seen as people who can't get somewhere on their own. What he discovered, though, was if you give them a little bit of support, doing what they do best, helping them do it better, they can get themselves out of poverty. And that small insight tied back to what I learned when I was 3 years old, that we all long to do our own laundry. We all long to be masters of our own fate, masters of our own destiny. When someone comes and saves us from a situation that they're in, they don't honor the fundamental human drive that we have to demonstrate that we are capable of more than we have proven. And so Paul Polak worked with farmers. People who are in poverty are disproportionately farmers. Of the 1.2 billion people in the world who earn $1 a day or less, 850 million are farmers. farmers. And if you're a farmer, how do you irrigate your crops? You wait for the rain to irrigate your crops, but the rain in most countries comes 3 to 6 months out of the year. So that means for the other 6 to 9 months of the year, you aren't exactly sure how to make your ends meet, how to feed yourself. So Paul Pollack realized if he can help these farmers get access to water all year round, they can make a living, they can make more money, and they can move themselves out of poverty. So he found out about this device built by a Norwegian engineer called a treadle pump. It's basically like a bamboo stairmaster. You dig a hole in the ground, you put a hose in there, and you connect it to this treadle pump, this bamboo stairmaster. You walk on it like this, it sucks water up from up to 30 feet below the surface, and you connect it to a network of rubber tubing we call drip irrigation, and you can water a ½ acre of land. And this simple device, which costs $25, is what he sold, distributed to over 20 million farmers who quintupled their income, multiplied it by 5. And that meant for people who were starving, subsisting on only $1 a day, they were now able to eat 3 meals a day, send their kids to school, get regular health checkups, etc. So this simple insight, how do we help people do what they do best, better, and help them solve their own challenges, is what Paul Pollack showed me could be that demystification of step 2, helping people go from poverty to freedom. And so this got me thinking, Paul Pollack is an extraordinary guy, and I'm learning from him. What if Paul Pollack could teach many young people what it takes to solve these problems? Many young people who have ideas from the communities they come from on how to erase poverty, on how to get people education, on how to get people healthcare, etc. And what if it's not just Paul Pollack? What if it's a bunch of brilliant people who have made real headway in solving real problems, teaching people like me what they've learned to actually address these issues? My dad, again, went to medical school, and he learned heart surgery, brain surgery, not from textbooks. He learned them from experienced surgeons who'd done these surgeries thousands and thousands of times practically. They were able to teach him where to stand, how to make an incision. They were able to give him feedback, stand next to him as he did surgeries himself. What if we could build the medical school for poverty by finding the Paul Pollacks of the world and bringing them together with young people hungry to create solutions to these world's biggest problems? And that became the foundation for what we built at Uncharted. So I'm just going to show you a quick video that illustrates the work that we do. But the way that it works is we find cohorts of young entrepreneurs, people who have brilliant ideas for addressing poverty, for addressing access to critical services across the world. We bring them together in one particular place. We bring in a bunch of people like Paul Pollack to teach them their practical knowledge. We get them access to funding so they can grow and scale their ideas, and we continue to support them with various connections to the people who can link them up. So I'm going to show you a quick video of the Future Cities Accelerator, which was a program that we ran focused specifically on urban poverty. It took place here in Denver, where we identified 10 organizations working across the United States, both for-profit and non-profit, serving the needs of people who are in poverty in the US. And this will just give you a glimpse into what this work actually looks like. Sound.
Swaths of our population are not getting the basic needs met. That's what this program is about. We want to create cities that work for all of us.
We created the Future Cities Accelerator really based on one question: how can we improve the lives of poor local populations in U.S. cities?
So entrepreneurs come to this program getting a $100,000 grant, a 6-week online rapid prototyping course led by Tom Chi, former UX lead at Google, a 5-day bootcamp focused on building a plan for scale and connecting with 35 mentors, out of which they'll build a team of 3 or 4 long-term mentor advisors. They get an executive leadership coach, they get a fundraising coach, and they attend a public support event at SoCal, the largest gathering of impact investors and entrepreneurs in the world.
Throughout the selection process, we really look for organizations that have high impact, have amazing teams, and that really had a vision that was scalable.
We have a free online reading program for students that is today used in 22,000 schools across the U.S. Our goal in the next 3 years is to reach 20 million students by 2020.
If we can connect everyone to the internet, we can change the life trajectory of millions of Americans.
I see a world in which every student can fall in love with every subject through something that they already care about. If we can make learning fun for students, we'll give them boundless opportunities for success.
For this program, we're bringing together mentors that will help all of these entrepreneurs think differently about their business models and how to really build their businesses for a sustainable future.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to spend some time with what I think are pretty profound startups tackling some really interesting problems.
This is mind-blowing compared to just how things are taking on, right? It's amazing.
Even before what's the ROI, what is the impact?
We've had the mentors help us with everything from core development to fundraising to scaling strategy to how we're going to create new products. This has been one of the most valuable things we've ever done.
We've actually been 5 accelerator programs. The people at Uncharted make a commitment to you, not just to give you like one-off advice. They actually want to roll up their sleeves and help us solve this problem and learn alongside us.
The reason I'm so excited about this initiative is that as a foundation, we've been around for over 100 years, and I think this is a way for the foundation to think differently about how we solve the problems of the world.
To fulfill the promise of this country, where all of us have the right to the life that we want to have, we need to be able to help provide the basic needs of our citizens. Investing in these companies is perhaps one of the best ways that we can fulfill our promise as a nation of creating a country where everyone truly has opportunity.
So that shows you what some more programs look like. Real people with real ideas for solving social issues, working together with experts, with funders who can advise them and guide them to help them scale and reach millions of people who are in need. In total so far, we've been able to work with 592 startup organizations coming up with new solutions to these age-old problems. And here are some of the results that we've seen. From the first 171 of these that we have some good data on, they've generated almost $230 million in revenue. They've raised almost $223 million in funding. They've grown their teams and their revenue significantly within a short period after running the program. And you know, that's really important because bringing in funding, bringing in revenue means that these organizations are able to grow their teams, they're able to reach more people and get them critical services in need. Altogether, these organizations have benefited 25 million people so far, and they're well on their way to reaching millions more. And so what we have done is, in essence, created this medical school for poverty, this place that people can really go to learn what it takes to put a dent in these issues and not just wait for miracles to unfold. And so our program has been successful here in the US, and the cool thing about medical school is you can go to a medical school anywhere in the world. You can go to medical school in India, or in Israel, or in South Africa. Why can't you have access to an education that prepares you to tackle global issues as well? And so we have replicated our programs. We now have 61 programs in over 24 countries around the world, including in countries like Afghanistan and Colombia and Cambodia. So the hope is that in the future, this kind of education will be as ubiquitous as medical school, and perhaps even more. And so I wanted to share, based on this experience and this work, what critical lessons might be valuable for all of you as you figure out how to fly, how to move toward what you envision for your own life, for yourself and for serving other people. And so I want to share 3 learnings that I think have been really important for us that I wish I knew when I was a graduate in high school. So the first one is live your strengths, whatever they might be. And I think as students, for example, we're shown a lot of the ways we're weak. We're shown a lot of the places that we need to be better. And I think perhaps being well-rounded is a very important part of our cultural narrative. But I think all of us have innate strengths that perhaps we're born with or perhaps we've had from an early age. How do we identify what those are as quickly as we can and follow them? And this is why this is important. The University of Nebraska did a fascinating study about speed reading. And they said, let's take two groups of people and put them through a speed reading course and see what happens. And the two groups were a group of people that read at an average speed of about 90 words per minute, and a group of people who read really fast at a pace of about 350 words per minute. And so the scientists had a hypothesis about which group would perform better after going through the speed reading course. Any ideas on which group performed better after they went through speed reading training, was able to read faster than the other group? Slow, fast? I mean, I guess there's only two options, so you've covered the gamut. So let's find out. So the slow readers indeed made a huge increase in how fast they were reading, being 60%. So they're reading at 150 words per minute. So imagine if you read books 60% faster. You know, if you're reading 2 books in a week, now you can read 3 books in a week. That's pretty extraordinary. The speed readers, you know, the scientists figured that they were maxed out. That basically they weren't going to grow at all in terms of how quickly they could read. But the speed with which they could read increased 800% to 2,900 words. And that is unbelievable. And so the scientists were completely confounded. They were like, how did this happen? And when they went back to look at the groups of people they identified, the slow readers, or the average paced readers, came into the course because they were excited to just be more efficient, to be more productive at work. The speed readers were people who loved reading. Literally, if you gave them a book, they would be the happiest person in the world. They wouldn't want to do anything else. They devour books because they find deep joy and love in it, and they are really good at reading. And so what this shows is that often our strengths are windows into remarkable capability that we have inside of us, and if we actually can develop those and are allowed to unleash those strengths, we can achieve truly remarkable, unbelievable things. And so following our strengths is one of the critical things that I've been able to learn in the short time I've been doing this work. The second is lean into your fear. Does anybody know who this guy is? This is a guy named Tim Ferriss. He has written a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. He also wrote a book called The 4-Hour Body, The 4-Hour Chef. He really likes doing things in 4 hours. And he's a New York Times bestseller. He went to Princeton. He's a kickboxing champion. He knows 7 languages. He's like a multi-millionaire. By every standard that we have in American society, he's extremely successful. And he went to give this very interesting speech at his alma mater, Princeton University, to about 300 MBA students. And he said, I'm really interested in trying an experiment. So I want to ask if any of you are willing to participate in a challenge I want to issue you. I will give you a remarkable prize if you win. So the 300 MBA students, 20 of them came after the lecture to listen to Tim Ferriss's challenge and find out what it is. And the challenge was this: reach out to 3 people who are impossible to connect with, like Richard Branson, Oprah, and Bill Clinton. Whoever made the most progress in reaching out to these 3 people would win, paid for by Tim Ferriss, a free round-trip ticket anywhere they wanted in the entire world. Just pretty spectacular. And so Tim Ferriss said he would come back in a week. He was planning to be back in Princeton anyway, and he would check in with the class, see who had made the most progress, and then he would award the prize. So he came back a week later and checked in with these 20 students and was shocked by what he found. Of the 20 students, how many would you guess participated and attempted the challenge? 2? 5? Yes, 0 is the correct answer. 0 of the 20 students attempted this challenge, and Tim Ferriss was shocked. And he asked them why. And they said, well, my brother was in town. I had a final to study for. When he pressed further, every single one of them assumed everyone else in the group would do better than they would. And the task was impossible. None of them would succeed. Tim Ferriss said, oh my gosh, well, you guys realize that I said whoever makes the most progress in reaching out to these 3 people would win the prize. So if anybody could show me a draft email that says, Dear Bill, comma, they would win. Nobody could even show that to him. And so no one won the prize. But what this teaches us is that what separates us often from not doing something that we consider impossible and actually doing it is simply attempting. Simply attempting, and we are often so afraid of something that seems impossible to us that we don't even try. And here's a story that, as high school students, maybe you'll be able to relate to. It's a story about a guy named Robert. And Robert was really afraid of asking women on dates. And he was so afraid of asking women on dates, he really wanted to get married and have a family. He was so afraid of asking women on dates that he decided that he needed to seek counseling. He needed a therapist. I want to clarify, this is not a story that's actually about me. What I'm saying is about some guy named Robert. But this is, there was a guy named Robert, goes to see this therapist called Sheila Miller, and tells her about the challenge that he's facing. And she says, Robert, I can totally help you. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to do exactly what I tell you to do, no questions asked, and we'll be able to cure you. And he says, no, that sounds really scary. And she says, okay, I will give you all your money back if what we try doesn't work. And he says, fine, what have I got to lose? Okay, what do I have to do? And she says, go out and get rejected by 75 women in a row. And he says, what? Well, maybe I could actually do that. I'm actually not bad at getting rejected. So he goes out, he goes to the park, and he just, looks around to see if he can meet anybody, and he walks up to a woman that's walking by herself and strikes up a conversation. And extremely nervous, that his heart is pounding, his palms are sweating, his knees are trembling, he asks this woman, hey, do you think sometime maybe like you and me, we could maybe go out for dinner, we could go on a date? And she says, oh wow, that's really sweet, I'm flattered, but I have a boyfriend. And he says, oh yeah, okay, no problem, he's a lucky guy, and then he walks off. And so he's, first of all, really delighted because she didn't hit him with her purse, didn't call him a creep, any of that stuff. So that was a great takeaway. But he goes on like this, and he asks 25 women on dates. Turns out lots of people have boyfriends at the park. The 26th woman that he asked on a date, he walks up to her, she's sitting on a bench and eating an ice cream cone. And she says, he says, excuse me, this is crazy, but would you ever want to go on a date with me? And she says, really? And he says, yeah. And she says, I'd love to. And he says, what? So she gives him her phone number, and he calls Dr. Miller afterward. He's so excited. He said, Dr. Miller, you won't believe it. This woman said yes to me to going on a date. And she seems totally uninterested and says, how many women have rejected you in a row? And he says, 25. And she says, you promised to do exactly what I told you to do. You need to start over, start from zero. 75 in a row, that's what you gotta get to. It's like, oh no. So he's like, that's enough rejection for one day, I'm going to bed. So he goes home, gets a good night's rest, goes to the mall the next day. And he's at the mall, and he tries to ask women out, and also a lot of them have boyfriends. About 14 of them say no to him. And then he sees this woman sitting by the fountain reading a book and wonders, who brings a book to the mall? So he strikes up a conversation with her. It turns out she's reading War and Peace. He loves a War and Peace. They have this engaging conversation, and he asks her on a date. And she says, I'd love to. And he says, what? This is crazy. So he calls Dr. Miller, tells her about it. She sets him back to zero. He starts again. This time he has 7 women on dates. They all say no. Then he has to start again. This time the first woman he asks on a date says yes. He calls Dr. Miller and says, Dr. Miller, I think I'm cured. And she says, Robert, you are cured. And the remarkable insight that Dr. Miller had here was to flip success and failure for Robert. Every time he got a rejection, he was advancing toward his goal of 75 rejections in a row. And when he failed at getting rejected, he had the chance to go on a date with a wonderful new person who he got to get to know better. And so this simple realization that rejection was not catastrophic, that the world would not end if he was told no, that he was still there, was really important, because the reason he became more successful in talking to women was that he was becoming more comfortable being himself. He wasn't so captivated by the fear of rejection that he was unable to be who he truly and authentically was. He became more comfortable because he realized rejection wasn't as terrifying as he previously had made it out to be. And this has been so true in my experience as an entrepreneur, in starting an organization, asking for money, asking people to partner with us, telling people this idea, receiving skepticism. A lot of people say, no, I don't think it'll work, we don't want to give you money, etc. And you don't need everyone in the world to say yes. For Robert, in the end, he just needs one person who will agree to be with him for his life. That's what he really wanted. And for all of us, I think this is a critical lesson, that rejection or setbacks don't mean you are wrong, you fail. It simply means, try again, keep pushing. So that was a big lesson that we took away. One of the reasons that this is so hard is there's a firm called IDEO, they're a design firm, and they show this curve to designers that they're working with when they come on board to IDEO. And here on the y-axis, it's emotional positivity, on the x-axis is time. When you start a project, you start all the way over here on the left with hope. You guys can probably relate to this, you get an assignment here at school, you might have a lot of hope, you're excited about the project, you're gonna try, it's gonna be great. And when you finish it, you feel great, you feel confident, you feel like you can do things, it's great. But the problem is that once you start moving from the idea and hope to actually start doing it, the crushing reality of the difficulty of execution sets in and you quickly plummet in terms of how good you feel about doing this work. It starts to feel really hard. You can really, riding a bike, the idea of riding a bike on just 2 wheels feels exhilarating. You're excited about it potentially, but as soon as you get on that bike and you're wobbling around and you're fearing you're gonna fall, you get really scared. And so you basically have to push through a really difficult period before things get better and you realize how to do it. When you're at the worst possible point is when you have an insight, is when you realize that you've got to keep moving forward to maintain your balance on the bike. If you keep stopping, halted by fear, you're not going to be able to ride it. And usually what happens, what gets us from hope through insight all the way up to confidence is we have to pass through something, really fast. Most of the things that we learn are a series of these curves. So you learn to ride your bike, and you get confident, you're willing to try a new challenge, you're willing to, learn to roller skate, you're willing to then learn to play roller hockey, for example, etc. So you build mastery by going through these curves over and over again. At the top, you might even be able to do your own laundry, which I am now able to do. Congratulations to me. But none of that would happen if you don't pass through the wall of fear, if you don't pass that moment where doing something is so scary that you don't just give up, but you keep pushing through. And what gets us to that wall of fear, usually, is people, is other people who believe in us, which is the third thing that I've learned about asking for help. There's a story that I love about a little kid and his dad walking through the woods, and they come upon a log blocking their path. And then the little boy turns to his dad and says, "Do you think I can lift this log out of our way?" And his father says, "If you use all your strength, absolutely." So the little boy bends down and tries to lift the log, doesn't move. So this time he rolls up his sleeves, bends down, and he uses all of his might until beads of sweat start forming on his forehead. And eventually it doesn't move. And he's panting and he's exasperated and he's frustrated that his dad misled him. So he looks at his dad and said, "Why did you tell me I could do this when clearly I can't?" And his dad said, "Son, I said if you used all of your strength, you could lift this log. You didn't ask me for help." And so then the little boy asks his dad for help, and together they lift the log. In school, I think we are taught so often, you succeed only by your own effort. And I think there's something important there to acknowledge that we have agency and that we have capability. But nothing is done in this world without realizing that our strength isn't held by us alone, but also by the people who march alongside of us, also by the people who believe in us, also by the people who help us push through that wall of fear. For you, it's your teachers, it's your friends, it's your parents, it's your siblings. Those people will be some of the most important people in your life in helping you accomplish extraordinary things. And so realizing you don't have to go it alone, get everything done on your own, is one of the most critical things that I've taken away from the 10 years that I've been doing this work. So in summary, if you can follow your strengths, if you can lean into your fear, and if you can ask for help, so often performing extraordinary, miraculous things is well within each of our grasps. So those are all the things I have to say. And I think we have, Casey, 5 minutes for questions? Or are we over time? We're running late. Oh no. 1 minute of questions. Great. We're going to interrupt you halfway through your question. Anybody have any questions? Thoughts? Comments? Yes, sir. They are both for and nonprofit. Around 80% of them are actually for profits. 20% of them are nonprofits. That was a fast question. Well done. Any other questions? Yes. How do you get involved? Yeah, that's a good question. So you could email me and we could chat a little bit about how to get involved. I've now moved on to the board, so I'm on a sabbatical period, and we have a new CEO, and the team is taking out, so I can connect you to the team. There's some volunteer opportunities, that sort of thing. Yeah. Any other questions before I get kicked off here? Get that hook. Yes?
How young do you work with volunteers? Do they have to be a certain age, or your organization, can you tie them, like, I'm a Girl Scout leader and I have girls that are 8, 9, 10, 12. I work with kids from 5 to 18. How would I direct them to get involved?
As long as people don't do their laundry in a toilet, they can probably be involved. I'm just kidding. We've actually only, I think, worked with volunteers as young as 18 so far. But that doesn't mean we couldn't have younger volunteers. But I think usually they've been 18 or older. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Why did you change the name from Unreasonable?
That is a great question. So we changed the name because we had a sister organization called Unreasonable, and we were called Unreasonable Institute. They were called Unreasonable Group, and there was a variety of different things that we were doing, but we kept getting confused, and that made certain things challenging. So to clarify the distinction in our approaches, we rebranded to Uncharted. Not that fascinating of a story. Cool. I think one last question. Yes. Goodness, great question. It is a very strenuous, intense process. People fill out applications, really detail who they're trying to help, what outcome they're trying to get to, what their approach is, what evidence they have for their approach. We do multiple rounds of interviews where we push and prod on all the different pieces of their organization. We do site visits where we actually check out their organization in person and see what it looks like. We interview the people they're helping, their board members, their funders, and eventually we'll agree to select them, but usually that process takes about 4 months to determine. Yeah. Cool, thank you guys so much, appreciate it.